today I thought I'd bring you a kind of how-to video. I've had a few requests on could I do some tutorials on how to use a sewing machine and maybe how to thread needles, that sort of thing. So I thought I'd start off today by talking about sewing machine needles and how to thread them. Now, sewing machine needles, a lot of people don't realise that you should actually be using different needles for different projects. When I very first started sewing, I just used to use one needle, the same size, a universal needle for all kinds of projects, and lots of times I wondered why my fabric was puckering or why it wasn't looking correct, and gradually over the years I've realised that's because I've not been using the correct needle. Now, it is so important to use the correct needles for the fabric that you are using. I learned this the hard way. Not using the correct needles ruined lots of my projects. So it is so important to use the correct needle. There are lots of different types of needles on the market, and I'm going to show you some of them and when you actually use them. Most people say that you should change your sewing machine needle after every project that you do. This makes sure that your needles stay sharp because that makes a better finish. However, I don't stick to that. I probably change my needle after every 2 or 3 projects. I find that keeping the same needle for a few projects is fine. I don't need to change it, but obviously it's up to you. If you feel like you want to change your needles, then do so, but just do change it for the different types of fabric that you are using when you need to. So as I said, there are many different types of needles that you can use for your sewing machine. The most popular are the universal needles, and they come in little packs, something like that, and inside those packs are different size needles for different projects. But what they are not, they are not different needles for different fabrics. They're kind of standard needles which I would use really for just woven fabrics, fabrics that haven't got stretch or not really fine fabrics. And these needles do come in different sizes. You can buy packs of them in different sizes, going up from a small needle size up to a big needle size. The smallest needle size in the pack being for your lighter fabrics such as a silk, and your heaviest needles in the pack for heavy fabrics such as denim. However, I don't tend to use these. I much prefer to use the specific needle for that type of project. And for in particular lightweight fabrics such as silks and crepes and really nice soft light fabrics, I use something called a ballpoint needle, and they are really quite pin sharp so that they don't pucker the fabric. And because I've got a Janome machine, and it doesn't matter what machine you have, all needles fit all machines, I tend to use these Janome blue tip needles, and they are really good. They're fine. They're really good for thin fabrics and also for doing any embroidery. If you've got an embroidery machine, they're really good for your embroidery machines. Now, Janome also do something called a red tip needle, which looks like that, and that's better for your everyday cottons, woven fabrics, that sort of thing. So they are kind of the 2 main needles that I use for those type of fabrics. But as I say, you can use the universal ones with the numbers on them. Now, it's really important when you're sewing stretch fabrics like knits, spandex, that kind of thing, that you definitely use a stretch needle or a stretch type of needle or a jersey needle. And there's the jersey ones. They look like that. And generally you can spot them because they have little colours on them so that you know which needles are which. So you get something called a stretch needle and a jersey needle. They are very similar, however there is a slight difference. So jersey needles are really for your everyday kind of knits. If you're doing, you know, stretch knits, stretch jerseys, that kind of thing. So they're really good for that. But anything like swimwear or spandex, you're better off using the stretch needles for that. And you can even get super stretch. Another type of needle which I've got, because I do quite a bit of embroidery on my machine, so if you're doing embroidery or if you just want to sew with metallic threads, is use a metallic needle. There's a metallic needle. Now, I tried all kinds of needles until I realised there was a metallic needle, and every time I tried to embroider something with a metallic thread, the thread was just breaking in the needle, and I couldn't understand why. And then I found these metallic needles, and they are fantastic for metallic threads. So if you're doing anything in metallic, use a metallic needle. I've also got leather needles, so if you're sewing anything in leather, use a leather needle. It's really, really good. And these are also good for any heavy fabrics too. Another needle which is really nice to sew with is a twin needle. Now, twin needles are really nice to make decorative edges around your the bottom of your hems, that sort of thing. And they're not difficult to use. They're easy to set up. Just follow your instruction guide for your sewing machine on how to do it, and I think they're underused actually, twin needles. They're actually a nice, really nice needle to use, and they do make a professional finish. So there are loads and loads of different types of needles. One of the companies that makes them, which are really good, is a company called Schmetz. They seem to have a monopoly on lots of sewing machine needles. And what I found good is that if you go onto their website, they've actually got a guide to all of their sewing machine needles and which guide you should use for which fabrics, and I'll put a link below so that you can look that one up. But this is a really good guide to help you understand needles. So it is really important that you change it. If for a flawless sew, really, I would really highly recommend that you do. And I think that lots of people don't actually realise that they need to change their needles for the fabrics that they are using, and it does make such a difference. So as I said, I have had some requests for some tutorials on how to use a sewing machine. So as I've been doing this video about needles, I thought I'd show you today how to change your needle on your sewing machine. But just before I do, I just want to mention about the tension on your sewing machine. Just changing your needle is not enough to ensure that your fabric is not going to pucker. You should always test a row of stitches on your fabric first, and if it is puckering a little bit, or if you're getting looping at the back of your fabric from your bobbin, you need to actually change the tension on your sewing machine. And obviously all sewing machines are different, but your manufacturer's instructions will show you how to do that. So it's really important that you get that right too. So it's a combination of your needle being correct and using the correct tension for the fabric that matters when you're sewing your garments. So don't forget to do that, and I'll now get on to showing you how to actually change the needle on your sewing machine. Okay, so this is where the needle is held in, and this little screw here is called the needle crank, and my machine has a little screw that you can just unscrew, but many machines you need a little screwdriver to unscrew it, and when you unscrew it, it releases the needle. So what you do is you unscrew it, take the needle out, there's your needle, take that out, and then when you want another needle, obviously get a new needle to put in. The needle has two sides to it. It has a flat edge and a beveled edge, and you put the needle in with the flat edge away from you. So I'm just going to put that back in, and you have to push it right back up into the crank until it stops, and then you screw up the screw to tighten it, and that's how you change the needle. The other thing you can do to make it a little bit easier is lower the presser foot. That would help you with actually getting the needle out of the crank screw, and then obviously you can lift it back up again when you want to put your fabric in. So it really is as easy as that. Change your needle whenever you use different types of fabric, and I guarantee you will see much better results. And as I say, you don't have to change it every time. I change mine every few garments, even though they do recommend you change your needle every time, but I don't think you need to. So yeah, so that's it. So I hope that you've learned something from this video or enjoyed my video. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you've liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And hopefully I'll bring you some more tutorials soon. Thanks again. Bye.